Hi, I'm certified nutritionist Mira Colton.
And I'm Dr. Jason Colton, and welcome to this episode of In Depth, where we explore the stories behind the leaders, the visionaries, and the innovators changing the world. And today we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Esther Blum. Now, she's an integrative dietitian.
And just a really cool chick.
And she's a really cool chick, yes. And she's also the best-selling author of Cave Women Don't Get Fat. I love that title. Also, Eat, Drink, and Be Gorgeous, Secrets of Gorgeous, and of course the creator of Eat, Drink, and Be Gorgeous project. Now she's widely respected in the industry, and she's a self-titled food fashionista. I think that's really
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mine is not just about food, but also about being gorgeous, living gorgeous, and she's gorgeous inside and out, and that's a really important aspect.
She was voted the best nutritionist by Manhattan Magazine. That's
cool.
That's a high honor. And she's appeared on the Today Show, the Isaac Show, Good Day New York. She's also frequently quoted in publications like In Touch, Time Magazine, New York Times. Now, she received a Bachelor of Science degree in clinical nutrition from Simmons College in Boston.
Simmons, I think.
Oh, Simmons College. Very sorry, Simmons College in Boston. And she was a graduate of New York University, where she received a Master's of Science degree in clinical nutrition. She is a registered dietitian. She's also a registered dietitian nutritionist and a certified nutrition specialist by the American College of Nutrition, which is a very prestigious certification. She's also a member of the American Dietetic Association, the Dietitians in Functional Medicine, Nutritionists in Complementary Care, and the Connecticut Dietetic Association as well.
So
Esther,
she's like really extremely well educated, plus just having
way overqualified.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us on In Depth today.
Thank you for having me, Coltons. I'm so psyched to be here.
Wow, Coltons, we just get to be like one person.
Coltons, you're like the Coltons, the empire of Coltons.
Everyone knows us as that. It's totally cool. So we want to start off by, In Depth is where we really want to introduce not just what you're doing as a clinician and as a writer, but also a little bit about who you are. So tell us how you got into writing this book in the first women, the Cave Women book. Like, what led you to have this desire to share this information?
Yeah. Well, you know, I'd been studying paleo diet since about 1998. I first heard Lauren Cordain speak on his paleo book way back when. And at the time, I had been working in hospitals for 5 years and really decided to embark upon private practice in holistic nutrition. I had done a whole certification program with the late Robert Crahan at Designs for Health. They had a really cool integrative training program. And the first client who ever walked into my private practice had MS. She was 34 years old. And I myself at the time, ironically, you know, the rules did not apply to me in my 20s, and I was eating gluten and bagels and coffee for breakfast and, you know, pasta for dinner every night and very low protein. And I thought, let me give this paleo diet a try with this woman. And within 6 weeks, all of her MS titers and autoimmune markers went into remission. And I didn't even use supplements with her. I just used diet, and she even cheated with ice cream every now and then. But like, her whole system reset itself, and she said, "Oh my God, I feel so much better in 6 weeks." And I just kept employing the paleo diet over and over and over again. And I went to a conference a couple years ago, and I came home and I told my agent, Celeste Fine, I said, "I'm going to write a cookbook." She's like, "No, you're not. You're going to write a paleo diet for women." So I said, okay. So
Celeste knows her stuff.
Yes.
Paleo diet for women, yeah. But here's the thing, you know, I really wanted to make sure that, you know, in being geared toward women, I would address things like hormones and toxins that we're exposed to through cosmetics and how to keep a green home and really make it a female-centric book, because most paleo diets, it's like a giant sausage fest. It's all dudes. You picture them, you know, beating their chest and waving their chicken club around, and, you know, women, it's not necessarily relatable or as applicable. So I really wanted to gear it from the female point of view.
Yeah, we were just talking actually before the show. I was saying this is really unique because, like you said, paleo primal, typically male-oriented, but a lot of these guys would love to have their significant other become involved in the paleo. And, of course, paleo's changed so much since the time that you began looking at it. It's kind of fractioned off into all kinds of different theories and philosophies, and so it's very hard to define.
Say starches, paleo keto. I mean,
sure. Yeah, it's hard to define paleo now. So let's ask you that. What exactly is the paleo diet to you? Now, about 75% or maybe a little bit more of the viewers right now understand and know paleo, or, you know, are people. But for those who don't know, Let's talk about that.
Yes. So paleo, to me, how I interpret it, it's actually a plant-based diet. It's a diet based in vegetables and some fresh fruit, and then we start layering on pastured meats and eggs from free-range hens, true free-range, not just crammed into a hen house without cages and barbed wire, and wild Alaskan seafood, and then quality fats like coconut and nuts and seeds and olive oil and some butter if you tolerate dairy. And and then at the top is some starches, sweet potato and butternut squash and winter squash, because women in carbohydrates, we don't want to go too low, or else, and we can get into this later, but you can really damage your metabolism doing too low carb for too long. So I really kind of have all of that in there, and I encourage women to take the template that I put in the book, the diet template, and apply it to their own unique biochemistry. And I really teach women how to find their own unique carbohydrate tolerance in this book. So it's a tool you can use for life, because your needs are going to increase or decrease depending on your sleep, your physical activity, your hormones, and your stress.
Yeah.
Okay, so your book, well, first of all, it's really, I'm just so psyched as a woman that we are getting so many more paleo women out there talking between you, one of our great friends, Diane.
Yeah.
We have paleo. There's so many people who are fantastic in our circles these days. So how is your book then different from, say, Practical Paleo or Paleo for Autoimmunity with Sarah's?
Yes, because again, mine teaches people to really find their own unique carbohydrate tolerance. And I do this by doing a 2-week paleo detox where I just pare the diet down to just protein, quality fats, vegetables, and fruits.
Great.
And I kind of hit the hormonal reset button and let people shed water and shed some bloat and just get that jump start on weight loss. Then after 2 weeks, I say, okay, now let's start adding those starches back in. You can have a half a cup of cooked sweet potato or butternut squash or winter squash. See how you do on that every day for a week, and add in a couple pieces of fruit. If you're still losing body fat and your energy is controlled, your hunger, your cravings are controlled, then add in another serving the following week. So you're up to a cup a day of cooked starch, plus 1 or 2 fruits, plus vegetables and fats and proteins. And I say, do this every week until you get to your limit where you stop losing weight or you stop seeing results, or you just, you go by your hunger and your energy and cravings also. Now, the other thing that sets my book apart from other paleo books is addressing the hormonal piece. Mm-hmm. The first 2 weeks of a woman's cycle, her estrogen levels are much higher in her body. This is the window where you are more sensitive as a woman to carbohydrates. So you can get away with an extra serving of carbs every day and not pay the price. This is also a great time to get in your long, slow walks or your high-intensity interval training for cardio. That works synergistically with a higher carbohydrate base. The last 2 weeks of your cycle, estrogen plummets and progesterone is on the rise. This ensures that you are less sensitive to insulin. So this is the time of the month where it's better to taper your carbs a little bit, double up on your protein, which I know knocks my cravings to the curb. It keeps my energy up. And this is the time to lift weights and you pack on muscle. So really it's kind of built-in carb cycling as it mirrors your hormonal window as well.
I like that a lot. I've never actually heard anybody talk about it like that from the perspective of the female cycle and exactly, based on the insulin sensitivity. I think that will be very beneficial to the women.
We do our own cycling. Our cycles are a much longer period, and we did it based on seasonality because that's what we saw when we were doing our travels.
Nice.
But this is really, really cool. It's definitely something that I would love to sit down and look at and try to see how my own sensitivity would black out if I actually started graphing it. That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea that you're talking about carbohydrates kind of as a tool, something that can be used a little bit more here and brought down there. Sometimes people are really carbs get a bad rap over,
totally.
in the low-carb paleo communities, right? And what we found, like Mira said, when we traveled around the world to 136 countries now, was that there's many different ways to get to that optimal health diet, and carbohydrates certainly are a tool in the toolbox. Once you know how to use that tool, then you can do it successfully, and I think paleo is a great place where carbohydrates can be very successful.
We just got back from Costa Rica, and we always say, look at what the primitive cultures, look at what the indigenous people are eating, and what was kind of amazing there is it's corn, which is something that we always say, you know, paleo diet obviously doesn't allow for corn, but it's not this corn. And that's one of the important things is if you look at the corn and how it's actually grown there and the type of corn it is, it's not the corn that we get here. So I think there's a lot to be said about talking a little bit more specifically about the types of foods, even those that lie within the do not eat realm for some paleos.
I agree with you, Mira, because I feel like if food was traditionally prepared, if grains were soaked and sprouted and not genetically modified and not sprayed with Roundup, we could all tolerate them a lot better. And there's questions whether or not it's actually the pesticides we're allergic to. Is it the GMOs? Is it, you know, I don't know that the grains in and of themselves are problematic, because in other countries where the corn is traditionally prepared and soaked and sprouted and, you know, squirt some lime on it, the acidity.
So important.
Exactly.
Very important.
Then it's all absorbable and digestible and non-allergic. So I agree with you.
Kind of like which came first, the permeability or the foods that are genetically modified? Like which is it? Is it that these foods are causing permeability or they are?
Yeah, no, I think the GMOs cause the intestinal permeability. And I had so many clients over the years that would say, with celiac even, that would say, I can eat the bread in Europe. I lose weight eating bread in Europe. I come here, I get fat. And my celiac completely blows up. So.
Yeah. And I know that makes nutrition kind of seem like, you know, the redheaded stepchild of the sciences. It's like, well, it's great, people. What is it, good or bad? But we've noticed the exact same thing. And we could travel for a year at a time outside the United States and eat a variety of different foods that you would consider to be maybe not paleo.
Contraband here.
Yeah, and we're fine. We're fine. We come back to the U.S. in a day or two, we're like right straight up. So, yeah, there is something going on. Let's talk a little bit about how paleo can change brain chemistry, how it can reduce cravings, how it can increase energy. What have you seen with your clients?
Yes. I have seen that getting quality protein and fats at breakfast, like the meat and nuts breakfast I call it, or getting eggs and avocado, or poached salmon and some almonds, or cooked in olive oil, you know, all of these boost serotonin and dopamine in the brain. So it sets us up for the day. Yep. It gets our energy up. It increases our mental clarity. It helps knock those 4 p.m. cravings to the curb. And so it's really, really profound to see. I mean, all you have to do, and people, if they're intimidated by even starting any type of paleo plan, I say just change your breakfast to paleo. That's all you have to do. Just ditch the cereal, ditch the grains, even oats, and just get protein. And if you need a starch because you're going to work out hard later on, you know, have some fruit, have some berries. I don't think bananas are the Antichrist either, you know. Have some fresh fruit, whatever's in season, and get your starch that way. But just ditch the grains, and you will be so much more balanced and better off for it. It's really simple.
Great advice.
That's one of the things we actually said in Rich Food Poor Food is, it actually in our aisle, the cereal aisle, we actually have a recipe for starting your day with pre-made egg muffins that you just cook ahead of time, because just having those in the fridge to grab instead of if you're busy.
Totally, totally, totally.
Yeah, there's so much good research on showing that starting your day with protein and good fats will really help to keep you satisfied throughout the day. It will really bring down the cravings. And this isn't just us saying it. This is actually science looking at people who have been eating a breakfast without protein and without fat, and you can start to get hungry again. And it just stands to reason. Your body's looking for that energy source. And if you're only feeding it carbohydrates, you're going to burn through those relatively quickly.
Right. Yeah, one of the things that we're doing now is actually we're coming out with a protein powder that is non-GMO Project verified and organic. Now, a lot of paleo people out there say that you should just have real proteins. A lot of people are in a like an actual piece of meat, but a lot of people are in a rush these days. And
I'm with you.
Yeah. Something on the go, and if you're going to do it, just make sure that you're having a good quality protein powder.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm with you.
So where do you stand on cheats then?
So cheese fits in with me. It's one of my dietary loopholes. I'm all about bending the rules whenever possible. Now, you know, if you can tolerate cheese, what's that?
You're a true New Yorker.
New Yorker, right? Applying the rules, yeah. If you digest them, if you don't have a problem with cheese, you know, I'd say get a good aged cheese that's very low in casein and low in dairy and easier to tolerate. Most people I have found have a lot of yeast issues in their gut. They're on the pill. They've been on tons of antibiotics. They have leaky gut and don't do so well on cheese. So I kind of say, if you're going to do it, or try and find like a raw cheese that's unpasteurized, because you actually absorb the calcium, right? Pasteurization kills the absorption of calcium. And you also want to maybe make sure it's not from cows. Maybe try a goat cheese or a sheep milk cheese, and that's less allergenic and more tolerated. It's better tolerated. Same thing goes for raw milk. You know, if you tolerate it and if you can access it, good for you. Go do it. I don't have a problem with it. Again, it's the processing that is often the problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
Speaking of course, fire on that one.
We talked a lot about that in Rich Food, Poor Food. And, you know, I've always kind of liked the fact that paleo has said, you know, well, strict paleo is no dairy, of course, but then they love butter. And I'm always like, well, you do know butter.
No.
But that's good, though, because if you're getting it from grass-fed, organic, you know, the milk is organic and it's grass-fed, I think butter is an excellent source of fat.
Totally.
And tasty.
Oh, my God.
It's much harder without butter, wouldn't it? Let's see here. I want to move down some of these questions. You talk about a couple different things that we talked about in Rich Food, Poor Food.
Some chemicals or toxins we might be coming into contact with.
They're known as obesogens. You talk a little bit about it in your book, how they can disrupt a woman's delicate biochemical balance. Let's talk a little bit about these.
Okay, so obesogens are compounds found, they are synthetic compounds found in the environment that mimic the effects of hormones in the body. So they actually displace hormones at the cellular level. Okay, so let's say you're drinking from plastic bottles all the time. The bisphenol A in plastic bottles can actually leach into your water, especially if you leave it in a warm or hot car and then you drink it at the end of the day. You're just putting plastic in your system. Estrogen is trying to get to the receptor site, and that BPA just slides right in, and instead we have excess estrogens floating around our bloodstream. And we're having bad symptoms. We're having PMS. We're having estrogen-related cancers. Men who are drinking a lot of beer, which is wheat, which is estrogenic. They have movies or man boobs, you know, and we have all these problems with estrogen balance. Young girls are getting their periods much earlier. We have a lot of fertility issues on the rise. And worst of all, it makes us fat. Okay, our hormonal balance is totally disrupted. So, and the toxin chapter, you know, I scared the crap out of people writing. My editor was like, what are you doing? So we toned it down and just kind of tried to make it more proactive and say, here's what you can do. Rather than being all gloom and doom, do really simple things. Instead of a plastic shower curtain, get a fabric shower curtain. Instead of plastic water bottles, get metal drinking bottles, pardon me. Replace all your canister with metal or glass or chemically inert substances. Yeah. Really simple lifestyle things that make a huge difference. You know, just go back to how you grew up as a kid. Glass bottles, glass storage containers. Don't microwave, and if you do, do it in a glass container, not a plastic one. All these can make a big difference. And for women especially, and in my resource section, I have links to companies that do every part of skincare organic, from deodorants to makeups to lotions and shampoos. I mean, you can just stop putting 200 to 300 chemicals on your body before you've even left your bathroom. You know, I try to use really simple organic skincare, and it was a hard switch for me because I had access to the best products in the industry, and I was like, I can't keep putting this stuff on my body anymore. It's a shame.
That's what people things that people ask us all the time, like, what do you use? Your skin always looks so good. I'm just like, look, I wash with coconut oil. I moisturize with coconut oil. I pretty much do everything with coconut oil. Yeah. All sorts of things. You know, there's so many great products that are coming out. It is nice to see that a lot of companies are getting wise to the fact that women want better products.
Yeah.
Makeup is coming out. They were really bad at the beginning, but they are actually coming out.
And I'm experimenting with companies all the time, and some still have to get it right. It's hard to make organic skincare that doesn't spoil quickly.
Yeah.
You have to put some stabilizers in there, but find a company you like and stick with it, you know?
Well, the tallow that I use on my face, I have to say my dog is a huge fan.
So what are you using on your face? Are you allowed to mention brands here?
Well, we actually just use our own kind of skin fat, really.
Yeah, right now we're just using, back to oil. I use Skinny Fat, which is our combination of MCT and coconut oils. I find that the MCT dries it out enough and the coconut moisturizes it enough that it actually does great for my skin. When I use the tallow, that really was just a dog attractor. But I opt not to use that unless I have serious like sun issues from going out too much.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important that we're talking about BPA because we get people writing in all the time, how serious is it? I drink out of a water bottle, my kids do, it's just convenient, I use plastic all the time, I've got Tupperware throughout the house, everything I buy tuna fish cans, and I'm sure that's got BPA in it, all my vegetables.
That's tricky, yeah.
It's hard to get away from it, but this is a modern problem, it's a real problem, and it's something that we've taken out of our household almost completely. I'm sure you probably have as well, and it's not as hard as you might think once you start, really zeroing in on it.
And the grocery store receipts that those things actually come out, those actually contain BPA. And now you see a lot of them wearing gloves, a lot of the women at the counters. That's why. They're wearing it to protect themselves from so much BPA coming through what do they call it, the heated activated.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, it's terrible. I try not to touch receipts at all. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, do you want a receipt? No. No, thank you.
Yeah. Or just like, you put it in the bag, I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
So how do you get someone like a family member or a friend to get interested in changing their lifestyle into the paleo diet? Like, what is the first step?
The first step is being an example, socializing and going out to dinner or just having people over and having them understand how we cook and what I eat in our house and that it can be done. I'm thinking in particular of a cousin of mine her 10-year-old son has diabetes. He had juvenile onset diabetes. They came over for brunch. I served them pastured bacon. I served them eggs. I made a sweet potato hash. I made some fruit. And they were like, oh, my God, this is so good. You mean bacon's good? I was like, yes, you should be eating a lot of bacon. And they were just so happy. And, and my son is allergic to gluten, dairy, and sensitive to eggs. So I was like, dude, we all eat this way. We are all really careful about what we eat and being sensitive to his needs and just being an example. And, the greatest ripple effect you can have, I'm sure you both experience this with your families, and, people always say, like, kids are the great excuse, right? Kids are the gateway to junk food. No, that's actually not the case. But people always say, oh, my kid's such a picky eater. And yet, they're eating healthy and serving their kid chicken nuggets. That's not how we play in our house, homies. The kids eat what the grown-ups eat. There is no such thing as a kid's menu. When our family goes out to eat, my son eats steak, potatoes, and green beans. Mm-hmm. He's not eating chicken nuggets and French fries all the time. We do let him have French fries sometimes, but you know what I mean? He still eats his protein all the time, and he eats lamb, and he eats bone marrow and liver, because that's what we cook at home, and that's what we teach him to eat out in restaurants. It's just that simple. It's just living your truth and if you have to eat simultaneously with your kids too and your family, because I have so many friends, they just stand at the counter and eat. They cook, stand, and eat standing up, but their family gets to sit and eat. I'm like, what the heck is that about? You're entitled to eat a good meal with your family too. And so often as providers, whether we're taking care of a sibling or a parent, we put everyone else first, and we're the last ones to eat. And no, it can't be that way. It just can't.
Yeah.
That's my rant on it, but
Oh, no, I think that's so important because, we go to people's houses and we see their kids eating, like, their own meals, and it drives us nuts because, we'll sit there and we'll sneak them, like, meat in the corner, like, when their mom's not looking. And they like the meat. Yeah. It's just that they were served French fries or pizza instead. And the kids will eat that. We actually go into schools and start working with kids, mostly young teenagers. Yeah. Because we find that they're like little sponges. They just want to know what's in the food, and they make changes so much more rapidly than the parents do sometimes.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head. It's really lead by example, and that's the best way to deal with clients. It's the best way to deal with family. Once they see that you've made the changes or that your clients made the changes, they'll come around and eventually they'll say, well, what do you think if I made this switch? And they want to try to make it their own. Oftentimes, family and friends, they don't want to follow right behind what we're saying, but
especially older siblings.
Yeah. So, talking about food and talking about making people think, let's talk a little bit about you personally. What's your favorite food?
Oh my God, this is like my death row meal.
Yeah, okay, what's the death row meal?
Oh my God, give me sautéed foie gras anytime, and yes,
I love that.
I love sautéed foie gras with like some kind of raspberry jam, or not raspberry, pardon me, like a fig or a fig jam.
Right.
You ever tried it on a grilled watermelon?
Oh, that's delicious, delicious.
Really good.
Sorry, I have a notification here. Yes, so I do love steak, but I love fish as well. I really, any protein rocks my world. Lamb is really my all-time favorite protein.
Yeah.
I do love vodka martinis, and I do love dark chocolate as well. So,
Definitely have
but
dinner.
I don't. What's that?
We could definitely have dinner with you.
Oh my God, yeah. And you know, it's interesting, my own paleo story, like when I gave up grains, I had 14 years of hip bursitis after running a marathon, and it was gone in 3 weeks. So,
Amazing.
It is
yeah,
incredible.
easy breezy,
Yeah.
right? Easy breezy.
Yep.
We're going to ask another fun one. If you could go on, not your dream dinner this time, if you could go on a dream vacation, where would you go?
If I could go on a dream vacation?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. Right now, I mean, I'd probably go to New Zealand or Australia. One of our favorite vacations, it was myself and my husband, we went hiking through the north of Spain, and we went in the Pyrenees, and we saw France across the way. I mean, I love European countries. I really don't travel as much as I would like, but I'm dying to get out of the country right now.
Yeah. We're actually talking about going back to Europe in a few months because we miss it so much. Now this is where we want you to, and we love your rants, by the way. That's I think it's so important for nutritionists to have a viewpoint on something. You know, where this is a passionate field that we work in, and I think without passion, you're really missing out. So, what is your hope for the future of food and health?
My hope for the future in health is that we totally, and I see this happening, I'm sure you do too, is that we see a complete return to our roots, and that people are raising their own chickens, and people are eating pastured meats, and, you know, steering away from factory farmed animals, and people, you know, start growing their own gardens, even if it's just a pot of herbs in their kitchen, even if it's just a tomato plant. Like, I want to see us getting back to the land. I want less pesticide use. I don't want to see, like, you know, people spraying their lawns with chemicals anymore. I'd like to see saline swimming pools instead of chlorinated pools.
Mm-hmm.
Just really simple, and I want to see people unplugging. I want to see people on vacation with no cell phones and actually talking to each other and eating meals together. I'm like, I mean, go to Europe. That's all to me, Europe is just the best example. Or primal cultures, go to unindustrialized countries and just study what that's like.
Yeah.
That is my hope, because you know, we're just seeing it can really depress the hell out of you and overwhelm you when you see just the waves of sickness and the increases in autism and ADD and real societal concerns that we will financially and emotionally be supporting for years and years to come. And I just want to see that all eradicated.
Yeah.
See our oceans healthier, you know.
I think we're in our way. I mean, I think we all see, you know, with the work that you're doing and the work that we're doing, and hopefully a lot of our friends, I think that we're really bringing awareness to the fact that it doesn't have to be difficult to make these changes. Going back to a simpler world is simple.
It is.
And those are just changes that have to be made.
Yeah, it's the relationship with food. One of the things that we did see, of course, when we were at the remote tribes is that they had that relationship with food. It was their forest where they would gather whatever it is they were going to gather, or their rivers, or their oceans. They really took ownership of it, and they did care about it, and the food was something that they looked at as being sacred to them. And we lost that. You know, many of us just go into restaurants, we order just willy-nilly off the menu or off some standing in line to drive through. You know, no other culture in the world drives around eating. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Dashboard dining.
Yeah, so I think that it's a realistic perspective that you have. I think we can go back to that kind of how our ancestors were having that relationship with food. Yeah. It's not as hard as people might think to follow a paleo, primal, ancestral style diet.
And you're going to give people in an upcoming thing that you're doing, I believe, some one-on-one guidance or some group guidance and a new program that you're launching, I think.
Right. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm launching an 8-week paleo program the week of May 13th. Okay. And really, we have been filming for months now and generating so much content on lots of different modules. There's modules on the basics of nutrition, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. There's modules on how to transform your kitchen into a paleo kitchen. There's so much information on mindset as well, because mindset to me is kind of the foundation. And it's really how to set up a paleo lifestyle for yourself. I do talk about hormones as well and the impact of carbohydrates during different phases of our female cycle as well. So it's just a really comprehensive, educational, but fun way to learn about nutrition. And then within that program, I have a whole separate launch of personal coaching, where I will be accepting 10 private clients through an application process, and they will get both individualized and group coaching that way, because I do still want to help people individually, but really my goal is to create change at a public health level. That's
Wow,
why I watch this program.
yeah.
And the name of the program is Paleo Chic.
It's the Paleo Chic program, yes.
Okay, coming from the fashionista herself.
That's right. You can learn more about that at livinggorgeous.com. Is that
We're
correct?
actually going to be linking through, I think, and giving people some links to follow through to get in touch with that program as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So look below if you want to find out more about Esther's program, and we absolutely recommend that you do. Well, I think that's about all of our time. Do you have anything else that you want to talk a little bit about before we go?
I'm trying to think real quick. I just want to talk a little bit about exercise too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's something, you know, and people think, I feel like you must get this all the time too, right? People think, oh, you're a nutritionist. It just must be so easy for you to just do everything. And, you know, I like to share my struggles as well. My personal struggle is exercise for me. It's a time crunch, and sometimes I just have, you know, resistance to it mentally. So I did so diligently for so many years, and I think I just burned myself out. So my whole philosophy has kind of backtracked to just movement. Whether it's, I don't really worry about the structure of the weight sets and the weight and the routines and how many reps of this. I just move. And some days that's a walk. Some days it's running on the beach with my kid, or he bikes and I rollerblade. You know, I call them playouts, not workouts anymore. And I'm like, what am I going to do to play today? Because weights to me are drudgery. I squeezed in a 20-minute weight workout this morning, and I was blasting Prince, and, you know, that's fine. But physically getting to the gym for me right now is a real block. So I have a home gym I've set up, or I go outside, or I jump rope and just do a play out. And it may not be as targeted toward fat loss as a real structured workout, but for me, I'm far more consistent that way. So my other take-home message in all that is, if you practice 80% of a behavior 100% of the time, meaning if you say, I'm going to work out 3 to 4 days a week, but you consistently work out 4 days a week, versus I'm going to work out, I'm going to do this, and you go 2 times one week and 5 times the next week and 3 times, you're better off doing less but consistently than anything else. So that's a big take-home message I try to hammer home to viewers and readers, because it's very easy to beat ourselves up over not being perfect and not doing exactly what we're supposed to do, but you really have to do what works for you. So
yeah, and play for other people might be going to CrossFit. I mean, I know some people, and it's not my thing, I'll be honest, but I know some people, that is their play. They love going, and they just get that endorphin high, and that's their play. For me, I can dance around the living room and go to Zumba class and go do a whole lot of things that are like cool for me, that I enjoy, that give me a rush. We didn't see, you know, when we traveled around the tribe, certainly weren't all doing the same thing. Some people were rowing to go and get the fish. Some people were walking the fish back. Some people lifted and built houses.
Right.
So it really is whatever you enjoy doing to get your movement in.
Yeah, I love the idea of the play out. We've talked a lot about that, about how exercise. So we really do, and we really promote that to our clients and people as well, because, like you said, there's so many people, they buy that membership and they just don't go in there. It's just too hard for them. But like you said, if you get out and you rollerblade, or you bike, or you run on the beach, or whatever it is that you do, and if you really put that into practice every day, or at least whatever you say you're going to do 3 or 4 days a week, you don't need the gym to be in good shape. You can really get in great shape.
Stand weights and a jump rope and be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on In Depth with us today. For all of you viewers who are watching, thank you very much for joining us on Cult Nutrition Television. If you haven't checked out some of our other shows, which is treadmill talk and house calls, please do so. You can go to cultnutrition.com and look at that on our blog.
Subscribe right here on YouTube, and we'll check you out, or you'll be checking us out, and we'll have more content for you real soon.
Yep. Until next time, thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, great.
Okay. Stop.
Thank you.